So good to see you all. Welcome, welcome. I think we have potentially a couple of other people joining. However, I know we're right at the start of the hour, and particularly in the middle of a workday, it might be helpful for us to just go ahead and dive in. What do you think? You guys want to go ahead and get started? Awesome. Well, I'm for those who are watching, again, I'm Shanaz Brochek, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Katie Drescher, my partner in Coachecco, is here as well. And we're joined by Shawn Quinn, who has become a dear friend of mine. He has taught the Positive Leadership Program and other work at the University of Michigan for many years. And he's here to talk with us today about that work. And I know will be really inspiring to all of you. And I'll share just a short little story to get started. Lisa Morgan, who you're here with us, Lisa, as well, but you remember these days well when I was in the program at University of Michigan in the MBA program. And let me just admit Michael here. Um, and let me pause for one moment so we can welcome him in, and then I'll resume. Hi, Michael. Welcome. We're
Well,
so
thank
glad you're
you.
here.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We're just getting started, and we were starting to share a little bit about Shawn's background and my experience in working with Shawn. But I was really fortunate when I was at University of Michigan in the MBA program to have his father as one of my professors. Excuse me. And Uh, I would tell you that that experience really lit my soul on fire to want to do work in leadership development. I would definitely credit Bob Quinn with that, and so I feel forever connected to Shawn in this work through that journey myself. Um, I think I've shared with you, Shawn, there was one moment when the class was done. We had an assignment; it was our final assignment, and I remember your dad saying to me, I really enjoyed your final paper. I wondered if I could share it on my website. And I just remember how validating that felt for me. And I knew I wasn't the only person he asked that from, but it really was special to me to be able to share from my own journey in that way. And I think it encouraged me in my along my way. And we never know what these little things are that are going to encourage us in our journey, or how they're going to connect to our own path. But it was really profound and meaningful for me. And so Shawn and I connected actually through Lisa Morgan, who's here with us today. Lisa was coaching in the Positive Leadership Program at University of Michigan as part of Shawn's class and had a wonderful journey there. I remember Lisa, you telling me, "Wow, you've got to meet Shawn Quinn. This guy is amazing." And then, of course, we did meet, and I knew she was onto something special with him. And so I'm excited for him to be here for all of you to learn from today. Um, Positive leadership for me is at the core of how we have structured Coachecco. It's fundamental to how I think about flourishing as coaches and as people, as organizations, as leaders. And so excited for uh, spreading that word throughout the world. And we're going to record this, so it will be available for anyone who's not here today and wants to be able to listen later or wants to go back and listen again. So, with that, please join me in welcoming Shawn.
All right. It is good to be with all of you. And yes, Lisa has had she's for good or for bad heard me teach all kinds of this stuff all lots of times. So
And I'm
and,
still here.
and you're still here. So I
All right.
guess
What does
that's
that tell
something.
you?
Yeah. Good. Well, we're going to try to be very interactive, especially with a smaller group that's actually here live, knowing a lot of people may watch later. And Shanaz or Katie, I may bring you in because we're going to break into pairs a couple of times. So I want to make sure we have even numbers.
Perfect.
Here's what I think we're going to do with our time together. I want to help you understand a little bit about the history and how I came to design the online program. Um, but to do that, I want to first understand a couple of principles that are related to the program that I think can also be helpful to the way you think about how you coach. And so I'm going to start actually with that second objective. We're going to get in and discuss a few things and then break out and have some conversations. And then let you know a little bit more about the specifics of the program, um, and see if it's something that maybe you'd want to participate in or learn more about. And then ultimately, we're going to leave a little space to talk about what was helpful today, what other topics might you want to explore in the future, and what other kinds of topics and courses that are added to the platform might you be looking for. So we'll have an opportunity to discuss some of that at the very end. But I want to start by sharing a quote with you, and I'd like to ask you, as you read this quote, what sticks out to you? What resonates with you? What questions does it raise? What makes you anxious? So read it through and share with me what reactions you have.
Shawn, I can get us started with this one.
Please.
Um, I think the job of a leader often is about expanding the view of what's possible. And we have mental maps, we all have our own worldviews, our own mental maps about what we think is possible. And I think as a leader, you need to understand where people are coming from, be in that place with them, and help to discover with them, not to force them into going your direction, but to get them to want to explore their own mental map.
Okay. I like that. Other thoughts?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, my first thought is like, I don't know if I personally can change someone's mental map, but can I create the conditions that
Mhm.
the space that might allow for that to happen?
Yep. I think that's fair.
Yeah, as
You
I
ever,
read,
if you ever figure out how to just change it on your own, just, then let us know because you probably make a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
as I read it, I'm remembering the idea of if you want to get a group of people to build a ship, don't gather lumber, but make them long for the sea. So kind of setting the vision as opposed to starting with you need to think this way.
Yeah, love that. Any other thoughts? Let me ask a different question. What are mental maps and where do they come from? Shana's kind of spoke a little bit to it, but let's explore that just a little bit further before I move us on. Todd, Michael, what do you think? What are mental maps and where do they come from?
So I would think of a mental map as an image that you have of what's possible and the landscape that surrounds that. And that often is in place as a result of stories that you have uh, been exposed to, that you believe, or that are somehow in your subconscious for a variety of reasons. Um, and that is what you know to be what's happening, to be what's true or what's possible.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. And also, where does it come from? You kind of hit on, but really it's every experience you've had up until today, right? Todd, every unique experience you've had, or Lisa or Michael, right, has shaped the way you see the world. And maybe for whatever reason, there's certain of those experiences or stories that resonate even more that you've played out, right? But it starts to shape the way you see the world. And so
Mhm.
all of us have mental maps, and all of our mental maps help us and at times getting in our way, right? just like larger culture, right? There's this famous quote that we think maybe is from Peter Drucker, maybe not, no one knows. Culture is just a set of common mental maps inside of an organization, right? It's the way we think about things and whatever else. But individually, we all hold these mental maps. And the most important part of this quote, actually, in my mind, is if I'm trying to influence someone else as a leader or even as a coach, and what I'm doing isn't helping accomplish what I'm hoping for, whose mental map needs to change, right? Mine, mine. So if what I'm doing isn't working with my children or with someone I'm working with or whatever, and I keep trying the same thing over and over, my mental map is the one that's getting in the way. So how do I begin to work on changing my mental map, challenging my existing ways of seeing things? To learn my way into helping others. Now, I share that because a lot of people hear positive leadership and they think, oh, it's about being positive and manifest the positive and all will be well. And some people react to that and say, oh, that's Pollyannish or that's toxic positivity. That's not grounded in reality and blah, 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 blah. And I get all of it. It's all fair. And there are parts of positive leadership that are about positive emotions. What do we understand about positive emotions and what do we do with that and how does it impact? It doesn't mean we ignore negative emotions. And by the way, negative emotions are sometimes more positive in certain situations than positive emotions, right? So there's a lot of complexity. But at the very base of positive leadership is a set of assumptions. And I first want to share what we call normal assumptions. Here's your normal assumptions. And for the sake of time, I won't do what I normally do, ask you some questions, but I will often say, what's your reaction when you see this list? And most people say, why do you say normal assumptions? That feels very negative to me. But in reality, it is normalized assumptions. If you look at the base of all of economics, the base assumption are people are self-interested, rational thinkers. Okay, so if I assume you're a self-interested, rational thinker, I'm going to build my economic model around that. I'm going to build my organization to that. And what I can't see is in the process, I'm building a system that encourages you to be a self-interested, rational thinker. I would argue not always as rational as we think, though. If you look at the social sciences, right, fair exchange, we can break down hierarchy. There's so many things that are built into our normal assumptions, and we learn them from the time we're children. We learn you go to the park, the kid already knows by 3 years old it's better to be on top of a hierarchy than the bottom. You should be the general, you should be the parent, kids know it's better to be in charge, right? They know that to get dessert, I have to eat 3 more bites. They know we could go through, right? They learn from a young age, fair exchange. We get into organizations. And even though we hope this isn't the only set of assumptions, this is very much built into our education system. It's built into everything we do. And then you could say, well, what's wrong with these researchers? They're depressing people, right? Why are they so negative? But they learned by watching people. So this is what they saw. This is very common. But if you change the question, which a center was formed at Michigan called the Center for Positive Organizations, and you change the research question to what does it look like at its best, you get this. The same person who is self-interested is sacrificing for the common good in a different scenario or situation. Well, that's troublesome because now that means that self-interested person in the right setting is sacrificing for the common good. What am I doing as a leader, as a coach to create that right environment, as Lisa says, right? That I'm more likely to see that kind of person than creating processes and systems and behaving in ways where I'm more likely to see somebody behave in self-interested ways. And so our starting assumptions matter. As coaches, you know that, right? You coach people all the time where you can see it. And yet what we can't see is how normalized we all are because it's built in. And I teach concepts and frameworks and things around positive assumptions. And even as I teach it, I always am reminded of how I just interacted with my son or my colleague or whatever in a very normalized way. And I go, oh, I can do better. I can do better, right? Yeah, Shanaz.
Yeah, I was thinking about as I was seeing this, and this is all stuff that's familiar to me, right? And at the same time, we can retrace our last 24 hours and we can find places where, oh, was I making a normal assumption or was I making a positive assumption? And to just be aware of like the energetic consequences of those assumptions on
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Where did I unconsciously default to a normal assumption? And where was my opportunity to shift that into a positive assumption, and being able to catch that more quickly.
Yeah. Well, let me give you an example. I'm working with somebody. We're potentially going to work with a large organization, and we're talking about taking them on a journey, a year-long journey, and it's not cheap. And they want to see real significant change. And I've successfully done that in other places. But we live in a world that is all about expertise. It's all about knowing. You go to college, it's all about knowing. You become the professor, it's all about knowing. You become the manager or the leader, you've got to show that you know and that you're strong and I find myself feeling like, oh, am I good enough? And will I be able to help them? And do I have all the knowledge? Because the reality is, it doesn't matter what knowledge I have. What I know is, and what leadership really is I step into this journey not knowing honestly how I can get them there. I know where I'm getting, and I know how I've gotten other people there, and I know I can share concepts and experiences. And I found myself feeling a little fearful. If we land this, that's great, but is it great? Oh no. And then I go, no, I've got to stop and manage because my normalized assumptions move me to a place of I need to be the expert, I need to have all the answers. No, just like they don't know, but pretend to know all the answers as they enter. And what Heifetz would say, right, is not we have certain problems that are technical and it is about expertise, but we have other kinds of problems that we have to learn our way into, right? And that's leadership. Otherwise, you're just managing. All right, we could talk about this all day long, but I want to use it to set up a discussion. Um, so what I'd like to talk about, or you talk about, break you into pairs, are a few questions. What are some examples, just as Shanaz was trying to think through her last 24 hours, what are some examples where you find yourself starting with or slipping back into normalized assumptions? And maybe take a picture of these questions and I'll go back to the other slides so you can see and take a picture of the two lists as well if it's helpful. And how is that helping you or getting in your way as a coach? Can you think of a time where maybe it was getting in your way by slipping into normalized, but maybe there's times it's helpful because, by the way, learning to see through the positive lens doesn't take away that you can still see through the normalized lens. You need to see through both. You need to see reality and how it works most of the time, but you don't want to be trapped seeing that way. You see more possibility by seeing the full. And then the second question, what are some examples of where holding positive assumptions improve the way you worked with a client? And how can you more consciously manage your assumptions before working with a client, right? What are you doing to consciously manage your own assumptions before you walk into that coaching session? Okay, so if you want to remember those questions, because we'll put you in breakout groups, go ahead and take that picture. Or you think you've got it down, that's fine. And let me go back. If you want to just have this in front of you when you're talking, feel free to get a shot of that or a screenshot. And then, all right, so let's break you into pairs. Michael, are you there? Are you ready to be broken into a pair? Just want to make sure you're good. Think he is. Okay.
I'm
So
here.
with that, Katie, do you mind breaking Shanaz, will you be go with one of okay, perfect.
Okay, am I doing the breaking out here. Let's see. Okay, so we need 2 breakout rooms.
Yes. Sorry, did I have the capacity to do that?
I think you were doing
Let's see.
pairs, three breakouts, right?
Maybe I can assign. Okay, let's do this. Okay. All right. And then room 2. All right. I think they're gone.
There we go. They're off.
All right.
Do we stop recording this part or?
Sure. Let me hit pause.
She connected with, sorry. And so I started connecting about positive psychology coaching, and so that's how it started for me.
Awesome. That's
Wonderful.
great. Well, welcome back, everybody. Um, I'm going to just close this. I would love to actually hear some of what came out of it, but for the sake of time, I want to introduce one more quick piece. Um, but I want to share a story that, for whatever reason, is coming to me. We often bring groups of people to hear Ari speak at Zingerman's, which is a company in Ann Arbor. Those who are more local to Michigan would be familiar with. And he's gotten into what he calls the belief cycle, and he talks a lot about beliefs, right? And I think assumptions, beliefs are fairly related, but it's driving so much of our behavior. And he often teaches, right, depending what your belief is, that's the action you'll take. That action you take causes that person to feel like, I think you're a jerk. So I treat you like a jerk. They now think you're a jerk, right? And it's just the cycle. And so what you believe creates reality. So it's hard to create positive outcomes with negative beliefs. And he was teaching this one day, and um, a woman that was there emailed him a week or so later, and she thanked him, and she said, I grew up in a home that holds the belief that education is very important and you need to do a good job. And I have a teenage daughter, and I hold that belief on her. And the problem is, she is not always getting good grades, and we get in a fight every day, and our relationship is disappearing. And I had to make a decision. What's my belief? What's most important? And after listening to you, I decided I believe the relationship is even more important than grades.
Hmm.
Within 10 minutes of picking her up from school, we didn't get in a fight, and our relationship's already changing a week later. Now, what Ari will often say, and I agree, is we don't know, but as the relationship improves and the grades aren't the focus, her grades are probably going to start getting better, which is the irony, right? So our starting assumptions, our starting beliefs are huge. But then as we started, like, I can't change someone's beliefs, right? As a coach, as a leader. So how do I influence? How can I help them? And there's a lot of ways to think about that, but let me just share with you one way that I think about it, and have designed many leadership programs and have used it in how I think about working with people I'm coaching or any journey I'm taking somebody on. And so my colleague Dan Duckworth and I call these the 3 keys, the leader development. It was pulled from Avolio's work, Bruce Avolio, who he intentionally calls it leader development, not leadership development. And I also like Ryan Gottfridson's work. He talks about how most leadership development is just adding apps, skills, frameworks, whatever. But the problem is sometimes the operating system is the problem, not the apps. You can add apps all day long, but if you don't change the operating system. So he talks about leader development, right? Which is much more at this belief level. And so in the leadership development space, the way we think about it is, I'm there, whether you read a good book, take a course, whatever, I'm there to build enough belief in you that you'll want to go try something different in your day to day. So Ari built enough belief in this person that she decided to try something different in how she approached her daughter to change what was most important, right? And as she ran the experiment, she got a different reaction, and it told her it's probably worth continuing this experiment and building off of it. Now, the next important part, which we often don't have time for, and part of why sometimes people get coaches, is force me to reflect because in my day to day, I'm going so fast, I'm not reflecting, and I can have new experiences, but if I'm not making sense of them, it's not helping me, right? Change my belief or whatever else. And so we've designed whole programs and whatever where it's like, how do you go through the cycle? I'm not as big on group org level projects as I am on running personal experiments between when you're learning and whatever the program is. But same with coaching. How do I, through asking you the right questions, doing the right things, help you see situations differently so that you want to go run a new experiment, try something differently, and then reflect on that and make sense of it. And if I can do that enough, and I can talk about other ways that we build in a leadership development program or ways I try to do it in coaching, then as I help you have new experiences, it begins to challenge my existing belief and experiences, which are based on all my experiences up till now. Now I'm starting to have new experiences that tell me that maybe there's a better way to believe or think about this situation, right? Or how I approach people or how I lead. And so I could tell you lots of great stories of how this works. There was one leader in an organization who had the belief because unfortunately she was in the auto industry and she had some early experiences where leaders brought her along in sales and said, made some crack about glad she was there because she could look pretty or whatever for the client, for the customer. Devastating, right? Terrible thing to say. Her husband gets in an accident, loses his arm. She has to do all the cleaning around the house. Every part of her life, she feels, I cannot be weak. I need to be strong and I need to take care of everybody. But now she's in management and she's working her way up and she's overwhelmed in life. And she goes through an exercise where she literally has to ask for help. It's a pretty basic thing. But for her, it was like a crisis because her belief was, I can't ask for help. I have to be Superwoman. But she did it anyway and was shocked at how people responded to her. And she starts to realize, how many people am I holding back? Because I've had these past experiences and anyway, it leads to her having an honest conversation with her husband and saying, we need to hire someone to help around the house with certain things. And she went back to her team and acknowledged it and starts helping them have, and over time, right, she starts to have experiences that start to fight against her old beliefs. And then she starts to share all these amazing examples of the outcome part that we're always looking for. We have to prove the ROI or whatever. Well, it was there, but it came only after she fundamentally shifted some of those beliefs, right, through new experiences, experimentation, reflection, because as she learned and we gave her new experiences, it opened her to at least beginning to believe enough to try differently. So, a lot more we could talk about there, but that's the last conversation I want to have you have and now maybe switch who you talk to just for a few minutes. We won't spend a ton of time, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about the course and end with a group discussion. But where have you seen this cycle play out with one of your clients, right? Where have you seen kind of they're learning, they're coming to believe, they're experimenting, they're reflecting, and over time it's changing the way they're seeing things and approaching things, and thus the outcomes they get. And are there ways you could be more intentional in your coaching and thinking about this cycle and how you're using it and working with people? So, Shanaz, if you don't mind putting now flipping, so maybe
Sure,
switch who's with who.
sure,
And
sure.
again, we won't have enough time to talk as deeply as we probably need to about these, but start it. Start the conversation, see what thoughts it triggers for you. We'll probably pull you back in about 4 minutes, so maybe 2 minutes each to just share some initial thoughts that's triggering for you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to open the rooms now.
I want to pause. So sorry. You're just saying that probably was too tight. We should throw away the rest of the content and let you have more of the conversation.
Did it
Trapped in
feel
her.
rushed or how was that?
It was good.
Good, good.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could have kept talking. Yes, we could have.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was about to say something else, and then I realized the time, and I said, "Oh, I had to go."
I
Oh,
think,
sorry. Yeah, we should.
yeah, I think both are true. More time's great, and also your wonderful content that you have for us is great. So I think maybe this just needs to be 4 hours long instead of an
Right.
hour.
Yeah, I've been with
With a
Shawn for
break,
a week. I've been with him for a week, so
There you
Don't
go.
give,
yeah.
don't give me more time, Todd. It's dangerous. All right. Well, I'm glad at least, hopefully, again, I'm just trying to get you to think enough and be reflective enough and build enough belief that maybe you're going to go try something a little differently, right? That's my goal, right? And then I won't be there to help you reflect, but hopefully you build in the reflection, right? Okay. Well, let me tell you just a little bit about the program itself, because now that you understand those principles, it will help you better understand the design or why I created it. So this is the program that I was leading at the University of Michigan that Lisa has does an amazing job doing some of the group coaching along with her a number of our colleagues. And as you can see here, I only show this because not everyone wants to pay that, right? It's a great experience. I think it's worth it, but I also get like there's plenty of people and organizations, types of organizations, right? So you can imagine there are a lot of people who would come to the week and they'd be like, there's only a few others in my organization that they're going to be willing to pay to go to this. Like, is there a way I can help share it with others who I know they're just not going to spend the money to send or whatever else? Or how do I bring it back to my team or whatever? Or there's my organization, I don't know how ready they are for this, but is there something small or bite size I could give some people to slowly try to build interest, right? So we could do something bigger or send more people to this program. And it was actually, I remember early in COVID, I got quite sick. Thankfully, I had everything, the worst version of everything you'd have with COVID in there, except for I didn't have breathing issues, which is the worst possible thing you have. So that I was fortunate, but I was laid up in bed just in pain. It was painful to lay. It was painful, tiring to just sit up, right? But I remember thinking of all those conversations that people kept asking, and now we're in this world that's like forcing us to be online. And I was like, I should create an online program that allows people to access at least some of the principles, right? And so I picked nine, just nine. There's other principles in the program. Today we've kind of talked about this one right here. Um, but how do I help people do it in a way that's actually impactful and helpful and stays true to what I believe around this cycle of learning and developing leaders? And so what I did was I created a short video that's about 4 to 5 minutes long describing the principle. And then I created a 3 to 4 minute video of me telling one or two short examples of somebody applying that in their setting at work and a few as a parent or other setting too, right? Just because so many of these principles can be applied in all parts of our lives. And so the idea was, okay, it's a Monday, or let's say the week starts on Monday in this case. I can watch two videos. It takes me 10 minutes or less, and then I can read an article. So in 20 minutes, I've got a base understanding, right? Obviously, I can't give all the experiences we might in a week-long course, but I can give you the core understanding and a reflection exercise to help you then come up with what's an experiment I could try this week to get out of my comfort zone. So those next 4 days, I now go pick a time in my day to day that I go try something or I try a couple of things to apply it. And then I return and I reflect on it. Now, I can do this on my own. I think it's even better if it's a learning partner you get together with, say on Friday or Saturday or the next Monday before you learn the new. And you say, hey, what'd you learn? Here's what I learned. What'd you try in your experiment? Here's what I tried, and let's reflect together. Or I've had some teams or some cohorts choose to do it, where they then get together as a group at the end of every week to discuss after they individually learned and went and reflect it and try and experiment. We also add other articles or things you could read that are optional, but the idea is so no one's overwhelmed, right? In a short period of time, I can watch 2 videos, I can read an article. And so it builds in this learn, take action, and reflect, right? Cycle. Now, where does a lot of it come from? I'm connected to this center called the Center for Positive Organizations. I simply share this because if you go to the website, there's lots of cool resources as well that might be of interest to you. So feel free to go check out the center and some of the tool section and so forth. And then I'll just share this quickly. Right now, we're charging 500 a person. I've Shanaz and I actually have an organization she was working with that is buying it for 18 people. The leader, the one option is they can pay to have me come in at times to answer further questions, dig deeper, or even if they wanted to have me come in and do some exercises online with them so they experience it beyond what they're learning. This particular leader wants to guide it on their own, so we gave him we're giving him a facilitation guide, and the 18 will all do their part at the beginning of the week. Then he'll pull them together for an hour session at the end of the week to share and make sense of their experiences and their experiments. There's another organization we're talking to who may want me to come in and actually do some pieces with them, right? And so we're figuring out what the right cost for me to help. To the group, anyone who joins Coachecco, we're offering at a discounted rate, at least for now, up through June. We can decide where to go from there. But because if you're going to be part of the community, we think that should be part of the value, right? You get a discounted rate on the program. What we're considering doing is, if enough interest is there, is we can maybe do it in a cohort that I help guide and show. Here's what I might do with some of the exercise. I guide some of the discussion, answer questions, because then if it's helpful to some of you, you might have clients where you say, hey, I'd like you to go through the program, but we don't need Shawn. I've been through it. I've seen what he's done. I've been applying it myself. I'll charge whatever makes sense to me and I'll guide and facilitate the group discussion if that's something that they want or whatever else. So we just share that. That's available online. There's a second course I put on there called Learning to Influence as well. If that's helpful to people, we can give a discounted rate to that one as well. That one starts at a little cheaper price, but we can discount that. So anyway, I'll pause there. Any questions? Does that make sense what I've shared and why I've designed the program the way I've designed it? Okay. So if there's interest, obviously it's there now on the platform. Reach out with any questions. Katie and Shanaz or myself can help you with any of that. So
Yeah, Shawn, maybe I can add here
please.
too. We've been Shawn and I have just been having a lot of really good conversations and Katie as well around thinking about how do we help organizations have access to learning and development content that is really out of reach otherwise for them. Many mid-sized companies know that they need this kind of development work, but they're not going to pay the kind of price tags that Shawn was showing across an organization. And we really do value creating access points that are much more affordable and scalable. And so we're looking for ways to get creative about that. Um, we also do see, for coaches, we see the opportunity to create content, have it be, as this is for Shawn here in the learning management system that we have, that's content that he can sell and earn revenue on. We'd love to build that portfolio of work over time and bring that to organizations and leaders. And at the same time, really just be learning from each other. There's such a great opportunity for us to share this work that really inspires us, that is really effective with our clients. And, sometimes just seeing how someone teaches about positive leadership or about learning to influence or leading change, leader as coach. I mean, all these different types of topics that we've been thinking about can be a wonderful way to supplement your own learning and development from sort of resourcing you as a coach further through that learning process. So we're thinking about resourcing coaches, and we're also thinking about how do we, through this work, create opportunities for coaches then to go and sell this perhaps as this last bullet point here, right? If you're selling the group coaching sessions and bundling that for a client, I think all of those possibilities surface.
Yeah. So with that, we haven't had a chance to hear as much from Katie. We had a few last questions. Katie, you want to maybe guide the group on seeing if they have any thoughts on any of these questions?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Shawn. Yeah, really wonderful material and so beautifully presented and easy to bring insights so quickly. So for Lisa and Michael and Todd, and what did you find most helpful, and what was here that you loved, or what would you love to see through Coachecco in the future? A couple of questions there. Just if I'm able to get any feedback, love to hear it.
Yeah, so I loved the reminder about normal assumptions versus positive assumptions. And it was really easy for me to call to mind an example from yesterday of when I was approaching something, with a normal assumption. And even in the moment when I was meeting with this client, thinking about shifting into into a positive assumption. So that was really good to reflect on. And yeah, I love the model, and I felt like I got an even better appreciation for the model, the learn, experiment, reflect model than maybe I had before. So that was really useful. Yeah, and Shawn, I totally want to check out that influencing module as well. That sounds really interesting. So yeah, I love these topics. I think these are great ones for us to cover. I'm glad you're recording too for people who can't be here live.
Yeah, for me, what I really love about it is by offering your course, Shawn, on Coachecco, and this pulls in what you were just sharing, Shanaz. It makes it possible for coaches who may be working solo and have organizational clients to bring in higher level content that will elevate their proposals and their value that they're inviting organizations to take part in. So it's really, really fantastic. Are there any topics that you'd love to hear in future courses or future live events? Is there anything in that line that anybody'd like to offer?
And we're asking all of you who are watching this later to maybe email or join,
Yeah.
chat online with us, because it would be great for
Mm.
Shanaz and Katie to hear from you what you would like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the influencing is a really good topic. I know that we've got some other great ones on the horizon, right, with Todd coming up next, and
Yes.
yeah, and some other fantastic ones as well. So yeah, super excited.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being here today. And those of you that are listening online in the future, we're glad you're with us as well. We're bringing you into our presence.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
everybody,
much.
for joining us. Shawn, thank you so much for sharing from your experience and wealth of knowledge today. It was really a pleasure.
Well, yeah, I look forward to other settings where, people could bring up, we have more time for questions or just to hear other people's insights or different ways of thinking about it, right? No doubt I could learn from so many in this community from their own experience. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. This was wonderful. Thank you, Shawn. I really appreciate all of your wisdom, and I look forward to learning from you more.
I look
Thank you.
forward to learning from you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye, everyone.